as part of Ask an Expert. About a year ago, I had the opportunity to kind of change a little bit of focus in the extension and work on, this is kind of a hobby project with all of the websites and services that we have available. And I wanted to begin looking beyond just the simple reports and the simple metrics that we have available in our applications, across all of our applications. But I was particularly interested in Ask an Expert. Ask an Expert has had about 160,000 questions come in, interactions, points of engagement in the last 6 or 7 years. And I wanted to begin to look at that data. Is there something in there that we can begin mining trends out, understanding customer satisfaction, understanding some of the things, because it's the most personal of all the data that we have coming into the extension.org tools. And I want to highlight this morning, this is session 1521 in learn.extension.org. We put a lot of these sessions in Learn for the remote portion of it. And did I lose? You lost me? Ah, all right. So we'll keep going probably with the video. This is session 1521 in learn.extension.org. I've got several of the event materials available here, links to websites and resources that I'll be talking about as part of this presentation. So the first thing I want to show that what we've got available is part of our AE data is ask.extension.org, and again, these are linked from 1521, ask.extension.org/expert/data. And here we have 3 areas that we can focus on. The questions that are available in Ask an Expert, we have our evaluation that's available, our survey that we're sending out to all our participants that's available, and we have a set of demographic data that's available. And the first thing I want to highlight as part of this is these response rates for an internet-based survey are phenomenal. 1 out of every 5 of the eligible set of questions from earlier within 2013, we've had a response back from someone saying, this is who I am. 16% of those, we've had a response back saying, this is what I feel about the interaction. This is a phenomenal response rate for an internet-based survey. The survey that we're sending out goes out a week after, 7 days after a person has an interaction, the end of that interaction with an expert within our tools. And so this has been really, really beneficial for us to kind of take a look at and to have a wealth of enough data available from that. So this is your hub. This is your hub for data, and we're going to get this linked in a little bit more within the application. And down below, we've just got some rudimentary kind of graphs showing kind of the growth over time, and you can see this dating back to 2008, significant growth in the interaction online with our experts within AAE, significant growth in the number of active, each and every week, unique active experts that we have available, and a really interesting mean response time that settles in about the same rate, just a little over 2 days. So those are just some of just a snapshot of the information that's available here. But what I'm trying, what I wanted to do with this was to get this data into the hands of people throughout the country to try to begin exploring new things with. So that the focus in all of this is getting that raw data into your hands. And so there was a question yesterday that came up in a presentation that Jeff Heine was giving about someone said, well, I can't get that data. Well, you can here. So if I were to go in, I just want to go in and take a look at questions, for example. There are filtering options now, just as of last week, to come into this data, and there's some caveats about our location information, to come in to filter this data by group, to filter it by the location attached to the question, to filter it by the counties attached to the question, and to even begin exploring more information about the tags that are attached to any of the questions. So I can come in here, I can filter, I can get a list of everything in the system, tag horticulture, and filter that list of questions. waiting on the network. But and come in here and get a list of, and you can see the raw data set of 161,000 questions, and eventually get a list of all the horticulture questions as well. There we go. Normally, so 47,000 questions over that, since that 2008 date, tagged horticulture that I can then download and come in here, and this is the key to everything that we have. Come in here and download this information, and there's a data key of all of the attributes that, at least initially, I've chosen to put in the data file. And I would love to have conversations with folks that are really interested in this, make comments in the Learn thing, come out and talk with me afterward about the kind of data that we may have attached to the question that you are interested in. And so that's the data that we have available, and then you can also use the same filter back with the evaluations, and here as well I can do that same filter. I can get a summarization of the evaluation data if I want to look at the same filter for horticulture here as well. And the download for the evaluation data, all of the question download data includes any evaluation. So you're going to download a set of 47,000 horticulture questions. Any evaluations that have been filled out are placed at the end of that CSV data file. It's a comma-separated data file. You can import it into Excel. You can import it into Google Big Table. You can import it into SAS, JUMP, other statistical analysis programs that you may be interested in to do some more advanced evaluation. And that's where I start really getting interested. So I want to show, I have no illusions in this short period of time that I can that any of this takeaway that you'll learn anything about R within this period of time, but I want to show that you can get this data into statistical analysis programs and do something more with it. So I downloaded a full data set yesterday. This is a program, and this is linked also from that Learn session called RStudio. And this is a friendly kind of interface for interacting with R, again, a SAS-like programming language for doing statistical analysis. And so I can just easily, I have the entire data set from generated this week of the set of questions, open that up in R, bring this in, and if I can get dialogue, read this in, and then I can begin to do some statistics about various attributes that may be available in the file itself.
Jason, R is free.
R is absolutely free. It's open source. There are commercial support. There are commercial versions of R that have support from the vendor that you can get more information, the same way that you might get support from SAS Institute for the SAS program for additional scripting. And you can see it gave me just a short observation, a short preview of the data file that loaded, and it loaded 160,000 questions a lot faster and a lot more streamlined than you can do in Excel or even some of the Google tools that are available. And certainly the filtered files by groups and by state and by location are going to be a little bit more simpler. But I can do things like take a summary of and have it fill in the fields for me and get quick statistical analysis of the things that I'm searching for. You know, we can see that mean time, and this is all the questions that we have available. We saw that graph earlier of the mean time of the question response rate, but that doesn't really tell the story at all because means are terrible when you have a non-normal distribution of things. Our median response rate is under a day. So, you know, half of the questions that are responded to from our experts are under a day. The first quartile is in 5 hours. And so, and even less, and then you see maxes of like 8,549 hours, and that would give you a hint to go take a look at that question and look at it a little more deeply. But there's some really, really interesting things that you can begin to do that. And I've got, again, a link to this as well, and this is kind of hard to see on the screen. But I want to kind of go through and let's see what's available. What can I do with this? So right now, I only care about the public questions. I only care about the questions that are coming in that are not submitted from folks kind of peer-to-peer with an extension ID or seeded into the system. I'm only interested in that set of questions. And there was something that came up yesterday where Jeff Heino is talking about Ask an Expert as a tool for engagement. Can we get some idea of the engagement activity questions that are going back and forth? Is a submitter asking a question, an expert responding, and a submitter coming back and asking another question? Is that some measure of engagement that we have? And so if I want to take a look at, and I'm again subsetting, I'm running a couple of commands that will subset, that will only show me, in this case, I only want a list of those 9,000 questions where somebody has said, I'm highly satisfied about my answer. And so let me take a look at this. And so if I want to subset this, I want to get a histogram of this, and we'll zoom this graph in, a histogram of the responses from anything of not satisfied to completely satisfied. You can see a lot of our folks are really, really happy about the answers that they're getting, either very satisfied or completely satisfied in their answer, and over the whole set of questions. But what if I want to do a engaged satisfaction? So let's assume that engagement is a couple of answers back from a expert and a couple of submitter responses. And the demons of the demos are always, you're going to have syntax errors. And I want to do a histogram . And you can see that number in the top, it put it in a data structure that's 494. So out of that 9,000 questions, about 5% of those have a back and forth going on them. And is there anything in that particular value that is an indication that they're any less happy or more happy? And from this histogram, I'm not really so sure, but I can then run more, explore that data deeper. So, a mean value somewhere of about 4 of the very satisfied of people that are coming back. But if I want to come back in here and take a look at the engagement, maybe a little bit higher. I don't know that that's statistically significant, but it is showing a little bit that maybe having that interaction back and forth is showing a little bit more. And that's just from 5 minutes this morning of trying to take a look at, do we have anything within our data that shows at a little bit more than simple metrics can show. And that's why I want to make this available to folks. And so the other things that I can sit here and do, I may want to do something. The theme of this conference was around the Pharrell Williams Happy video. And so I'm going to run a couple of commands that are going to load some mapping libraries for me. Again, this is what R can do for you. And I want to take a look at, across the nation, broken down by state, a graph that kind of has a happiness factor by state of the questions that are coming in by state. What are the average? What is the mean? Again, the mean can be kind of funky. The mean happiness, the mean satisfaction level of, to the best of our ability, the questions that we've identified from that state. And I have no idea what's going on in New Jersey, but I know Barb's somewhere in the room, so but anyway, you can see some areas within that have that information. Yeah.
I'm not an extension person, but I do have access to the data. How publishable is it? So, what's the ownership of the data? What's the publishability of the data? What about outside people, and who owns the data?
What do you think, Sarah?
Let's go with first the publishing of what you just did today. Like the chart you just showed is behind the firewall.
Yeah, the question is about the data ownership and the use of this information publicly. I don't have a good answer, and I'm looking to Sarah Ballman, who's our evaluation lead for e-extension. And
a way to ask the question, which is from a reporter's point of view, if I filed a Freedom of Information Act request, would this be granted?
Oh yeah, well yeah.
Yeah, and it's not, and actually my cringe was more about
The cringe is about the set of questions and about how the questions are structured and what they're measuring right now, and are there indications.
But I have no problem sharing the data.
I mean, the data until I put it in Ask an Expert was wide open to the entire world. The data downloads were wide open. They're authenticated now, and they're authenticated only to get it to be in a position to be able to say, here's some information that you really need to know. Here's some caveats about location detection. Here's some caveats about the information that is part of this. I think the more the merrier. I mean, if we have interesting things in here, trying to explore those things from a data journalism and data science perspective, we need as much as that as possible to kind of do that. But that and again, at least in the evaluation part of it, is measuring that interaction within our tool. It's not measuring overall the satisfaction of reading an article or reading this, but it's the engagement in the answer coming back from this particular tool. But the things that are within the question set of data, it's paid for by the taxpayer. It's wide open. I mean, that's. I don't know that we've explored a lot of. I mean, the ownership is this a public project. The more the merrier, but a lot of those questions, these are new questions, and just trying to get out. Hey, what do we do? How do we get this? How do we get this information out there?
Do you have 1 minute left?
Okay, add up the 20.
An online question. Someone is asking, do you have to know coding to look at this data, or is this something that you
certainly can get the information in the CSV files and get them into whatever program that you're comfortable with doing any kind of data analysis. I chose R in this case just for my beginning analysis because it's a little bit closer to this, SAS experience. But as scientists and social scientists and the folks that we have as specialists and agents within Extension, just about all of us should be familiar with some kind of statistical analysis in some way, and there are programs that can make this easier. So anything that can import the CSV, you can begin to do exploration with. Jump by SAS, for example, does a lot of this where you can do the statistical breakdown more easily without kind of running through a set of commands. And I'm just using R because it's something that I become comfortable with and gave me an option to show what's possible with this information. And I think that's it. I am done. I am out of time, and I appreciate it. But anybody's welcome to come up, ask questions afterward, drop comments in the Learn session. And thanks, everyone, for being here.